All praises to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. So says NSPM. I'm reading the caption. 7 is here and it says bad as we expected. Trump signed a presidential directive that gives the government sweeping powers to investigate, surveil, and criminalize anyone who dares to dissent. Right? Protest suspicious. Mutual aid investigated. Nonprofits labeled threats. They're not stopping actual violence. They're stopping you. This isn't about public safety. It's about power, punishment, and control wrapped in law enforcement jargon and funded with your tax dollars. Right? So we're going to, it's not just unconstitutional, it's fascism with a federal grant. So we are going to, actually, let's read this. Law passed by Congress applies to everyone. EO, also known as executive order, president tells agencies what to do, has legal weight within the executive branch, and NSPM equals secret or obscure version of an executive order for national security that can be used to quietly expand state power. So we're going to swipe through this, and we're going to use some scriptures to talk about this. So as we know, right now we have the National Guard, I believe, in Portland, and I believe in Tennessee. So we're going to read this NSP-7 section by section, how they're criminalizing dissent in real time. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a presidential directive. Trump signed NSPM-7 to turn protest into terrorism, investigate nonprofits and silence resistance. Section 1. Domestic terrorism equals anything they don't like. NSPM 7 claims there's been 1,000% increase in violence against ICE since Trump took office again. It blames this on coordinated anti-fascist movements that says signs of terrorism now includes things like criticizing capitalism, supporting migrants, gender rights, or racial justice. This isn't just about actual violence, it's about labeling political opposition as a threat. The memo directs Joint Terrorism Task anyone recording or radicalizing people accused of conspiracy against rights, anyone allegedly promoting violent deprivation of rights. Notice how these are incredibly vague and easy to abuse. Translation: organizing, protesting, even tweeting can now be framed as terrorism. Section 2. Follow the donors. JTTFS are told to investigate funders and staff of protest groups, NGOs with foreign connections. Anyone accused of money laundering via protest support. This directly echoes the Capitol Research Center's report. So NSPM 7 gives that paranoia teeth. Full government surveillance mode. NSPM 7 tells every federal agency to share intel with the law enforcement, flag suspicious donations, investigate tax exempt orgs, refer their staff for persecution. It even pushes banks to file suspicious activity reports on protest-related funding. This isn't about protecting democracy; it's about automating political persecution, right? So imagine you're at work, right? And you're at work, and let's just say you haven't gotten the jab in 2020, right? Well, your company or the job you work at will share that info with the government, right? Or if you're talking about anything with coworkers where you don't support the regime, well, you better not have your employer hear that because you'll be a target. Now, Section 2, KL, organizers equals criminal gangs. NSPM 7 orders agencies to interrogate arrestees for info on who organized their protests, who paid for it, what networks they belong to. It also says law enforcement should treat protest groups like organized crime rings using laws designed to bust mafia, right? So, as you can see, it seems as though they're putting more energy on busting people who are non-violent than people who are violent, right? The domestic terrorist label is made up. NSPM 7 tells the Attorney General to label entire groups as domestic terrorist organizations. So guess who else is going to be labeled as a terrorist organization? You guessed it. Us Hebrew Israelites. As Hebrew Israelites, right? will be labeled as terrorist organizations. If you use the Bible to call Esau Edomite, will be labeled as a terrorist organization. If you even call yourself a Hebrew Israelite, right, will be labeled as a terrorist organization. If you tell other brothers that we are Hebrew Israelites, will be labeled as a terrorist organization. This is why if you had Kyrie Irving said he was an Israelite, and he got punished for it, right? So it says, but here's the problem. The law only defines what domestic terrorism is. It doesn't authorize a legal designation system for domestic groups like the one used for foreign terrorist organizations. There's no due process, no criteria, no oversight, right? So they've been trying to skip past this due process for a while. They just want to lock you up, right? It says what 18 USC actually says. Under 18 U.S. Code, domestic terrorism means acts that are dangerous to human life and violate criminal law or intend to intimidate or court civilians or influence government policy occur mostly inside the U.S., right? NSMP 7 makes domestic terrorism national funding priority, meaning DHS gets more money, police gets a grant to combat threats, more resources for surveillance, but fewer for civil society. Meanwhile, nonprofits serving actual communities get raided, funded, and criminalized, protect and serve more like suppress and surveil, right? So, like said, what's the point of becoming a success in Babylon when they're trying to take your rights away, right? So, that's it on this. If you want to, I'll leave this here. You can read it yourself whenever you have the time. But we're going to skip to this guy.
Miller, absolutely.
You all remember Stephen Miller, who's the racist who wants to get ice on Jake.
We did not have a glitch on live TV. Okay, he had an oh shit moment where he said something that he fucking was not supposed to say. Check this out, and then I will explain after.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen?
So you can see, clearly not a glitch, you can see Stephen Miller's body move and you can still see him blinking. Let's talk about what he said right before he froze, okay? He said plenary authority. It sounds like he was tripping on his words right before he glitched, but he was not. That's an actual thing, okay? I'm gonna tell you what it means right now. Plenary authority is the full, complete, and absolute power to act on a specific matter without any limitation. With him acknowledging Project 2025 and deploying the National Guard to all these cities, he said the quiet part out loud and then was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. I don't think I was supposed to say that. A lot of you guys don't grasp the reality of the situation. Anyways, that being said, I hope you have a wonderful...
So let's go out some scriptures, because what he said was a pretty big thing. It says in 2 Ezra chapter 16, verse 71, they shall be like a madman, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, right? So plenary authority, from what I've just heard, basically means that they get to harm you, arrest you without reasonable cause, and treat you bad, and you're not going to be able to sue them, right? So, it, like said, Esau shall be like a madman sparing none. So a lot of people, right, rested 10 days. It says, Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life, right? So we're coming to a time where they are implementing these laws. They're trying to pass all these executive orders, and they're just getting ready to unleash hell upon Jake, and eventually it's going to become hell upon the whole world. So let's say Trump, America is right now the last to implement digital ID. Well, a lot of people in America will rebel against the digital ID. So this is where NSPM7 comes in, right? Where if you rebel against the digital ID, or you're against this agenda and speak about what they're doing, they'll label you as a domestic terrorist. If you speak as an Israelite, you'll be labeled as a domestic terrorist, right? If you use the Bible and call out who Amalek is, you'll be labeled as a domestic terrorist. So we know that Babylon is definitely in its final phases. It's about to fall, and that's it. Now, of course, bad news for the world, but good news for us. So let's hope we are of the elect. Let's stay prayed up, and remember, only the elect can be saved. So all praises, of course, all Israel will be saved, but the elect will be saved this trouble. Will be saved out of this trouble. So all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Hope this lesson is edifying to the elect and hopeful elect, and Shalom.